Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how to use the Mac menu bar with just the keyboard. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So here's another video for fans of using the keyboard over the mouse or trackpad as much as possible. The menu bar may seem like it's a problem here. You can't even see what's available in the menu bar without using the mouse or trackpad. But there are actually plenty of ways to use the menu bar to its fullest with only the keyboard. The most obvious is to use the keyboard shortcuts that are already there. For instance, if I wanted to bold this text here, I would go to the Format menu and then go to Font, and then you could see bold right here. But the keyboard shortcut is shown right there, Command B. If you know that already, you can use Command B to make the selected text bold. If you don't know it, you only need to go to the menu bar once to find that out, and hopefully you'll remember after that. But what happens if there's no keyboard shortcut? For instance, look at Strike Through. There's no keyboard shortcut here. Well, you can create your own keyboard shortcut for any item in the menu bar. To do that, go to System Settings and then go down to Keyboard. Then look for the button Keyboard Shortcuts. Click that. To create your own custom keyboard shortcuts, you want to go on the left to App Shortcuts and then click the plus button. And then here you want to choose the application you're using. If it's something really common that's across multiple apps, you could stick with all applications. Otherwise, choose the specific app where you want to set the shortcut. So I'm going to choose Notes here. And then you need to type the menu title. Now in Notes, this was under Format, under Font, and then it was Strike Through. But we don't care about format or font. We just need the exact name of the menu item. And then you want to type that here. If you get even one character wrong, it's not going to work. So if it's not working for you, make sure that the menu title you've typed is perfect. Then you want to click here and then type the keyboard shortcut. So let's set this as Command Option Shift and S for Strike Through. And now I'll click Done. And then I'll click Done here and I'll quit System Settings. Now if I look in the menu bar under Format, Font, you'll see Strike Through has the keyboard shortcut there. If you check and you don't see it here, that means you mistyped the word or you've assigned a keyboard shortcut that's being used by something else. So try again. But now that I've got that set to strike through some text, I just use the keyboard shortcut and it will do it. It works the same as if you select the item in the menu bar. So in this case, selecting the item in the menu bar a second time will remove it, and so will the keyboard shortcut. Now another way to access the menu bar is to use a special keyboard command that will activate the menu bar but without you touching the mouse or trackpad. The normal keyboard shortcut for this is to use Control, not Command but Control, and then F2. Now you may also need to add the FN or globe key to that depending upon your settings. We'll look at that in a minute. I'm going to use Control and F2, and notice how the Apple menu at the top left is now selected. Now I can use the arrow keys to navigate around. If I use the right arrow key, it will move one menu to the right. I can keep moving to the right and the left arrow key will move to the left. And now I can use either the return key, the space bar, or the down arrow to open up that menu and it will go to the first menu item. Now I can continue to use the down arrow to select what I want. If there's a submenu like Font here, I can simply use the right arrow to go over to it. Left arrow will go back. So if I want to get to Strike Through here, I can just go down to it and now I can use Return or Spacebar and it will activate that menu item. And you can see how I was able to use that menu item with just the keyboard. Now I'll note that the key to activate this can be found in System Settings and then go back to Keyboard, go to Keyboard Shortcuts again, but this time go to Keyboard. And look for Move Focus to the menu bar. First you want to make sure it's checked so that it's active, but also you can customize it here. So for instance, I could change this by double clicking and then just choosing F2. If you're using an F key like F2, do note that you may have to add the globe or FN key to this as well. To check for that, go to the Function Keys section here and look for this switch. If you've got this turned off, that means that you need to add the globe or FN key. If you turn it on, then you don't need to anymore. So now I can choose Control and F2, Whereas with this turned off, I need to use Control, the FN key, and F2 to activate the menu bar. Here's a couple more tips to go with this. If you use Control and F2 to go to the menu bar, and then you go to a menu like this, you can jump to a specific menu item by hitting just a letter on the keyboard. If I wanted to use the dashed list function, notice it's the first menu item with the letter D. So just pressing D will jump right down to it. Now I can press the spacebar or return to activate it. If I decide I don't want to use any item here at all, I just want to exit, I can use the escape key like that. Now one of the problems with using Control F2 is sometimes it doesn't quite work. However, there is another way to get to the menu bar. There's a keyboard shortcut that will not jump to the Apple menu, instead the Help menu. And that's to use Command, Shift, and the question mark key on US keyboards. Of course, Shift and slash is question mark. So what you're really saying is Command question mark. But it is 3 keys that you need to hit. So for instance, if I use Shift, Command, and question mark, here you can see it opens up the Help menu. And I can see a blinking text cursor in the search box. But you could just ignore that and use the left arrow to go backwards through the items there. You're using the menu bar now exactly the same way you would as if you used Control and F2. You're just starting with the Help menu instead of the Apple menu. And I find that this is actually more reliable than Control F2 in some cases. So if I have some text selected like this, I can use Command Shift question mark. I can go back to the Format menu. I can go down to Font and then to strike through and return without using the mouse or trackpad. But there's an even better way to do this using the same keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to use Shift, Command, and question mark. And I've got that blinking text cursor there in search. And you would think that that allows me to search documentation, which it does. But it also allows me to search the menu bar items. So all I need to do is start typing the name of the menu bar item I want. I'll start typing strike through. And notice how it lists any menu items that match this. If I had just typed ST, you could see how it has other ones here like match style, retain style, copy style that have ST in it. But as soon as I go to STR, only one matches that. Now, if I were to down arrow to it, you could see how that is highlighted, font strike through. It also shows me where this is. So I can see the Format menu under Font, and there's strike through, and there's even that big blue arrow that's hovering there. So this is a good way to learn where something is if you've forgotten where the menu item is located. But you don't need to actually do anything else at this point except use return. You can't use space here because that would just type a space in that help field. But return will actually activate font strike through. So I can quickly and easily use font strike through that way. Watch me do it again. Shift Command question mark, STR. It was already there, but I can down arrow to it, return, and I've used strike through pretty quickly. Way faster than if I used Control and F2. Not as fast as a regular keyboard shortcut like Command B for bold, but it would be faster than Command B if I didn't remember that was the keyboard shortcut. Using the Help menu like this would allow me to find it, remind me where the keyboard shortcut was, but also just a quick return actually activates the menu. So I don't have to keep that many keyboard shortcuts in my head. Now if you're not using a US keyboard, you might be unsure exactly how to get the Help menu to come up. Check this and change it by going into System Settings, going back to Keyboard, and then Keyboard Shortcuts. And then go to App Shortcuts. This is where you set custom shortcuts. But if you look under the category All Applications, there will be one item that's there by default. When macOS is installed, this is there by itself. You don't need to create it. It's Show Help Menu. Make sure it's checked. And that is where you can set it. So I can actually change this to something else like F12 or something like that if I want it to be a single key press. So there are a whole bunch of different ways to use the menu bar with only the keyboard. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.